I think TMNT is one of those things that sticks around so long for how much of a silly concept it is. It went from an indie comic that was poking fun of dark comics like The Dark Knight Returns to a franchise worth $15 billion, and most of them comes from the amount of memorable shows and movies they've had. I never grew up with much of the TMNT, but with some of the shows I did watch, I can see why there's some appeal to it, like the 2003 show, the 2012 show, and the recent Rise of the TMNT was pretty good. And also the movies are fun from what I remember. And side note, I remember owning a bootleg version of the Michael Bay TMNT. I think it's more of a crime to own a real Blu-ray of that movie than it is to have a bootleg. I think I still have it to this day. Anyways, the TMNT is no stranger to film, so of course there's a new one that I'm reviewing right now. God, I'm so good at transition.
Can I kick it? Yes, you can. Can I kick it? Yes, you can.
I've been a bit interested in watching this movie since its first teaser, and watching it was a lot of fun. I don't know how many TMNT fans are going to enjoy the changes they made, but for me it worked. I did enjoy the fact that this movie starts as an origin story for the group of characters that has a simple idea. The turtles want to experience the outside world and be accepted by the humans, which isn't a new one for TMNT, but I think it works well with some issues involved. Sometimes the story tends to forget characters that were introduced to be important and then forgets about them so we can focus on something else. This movie is only 90 minutes long, so I can see why they couldn't really fit two villains, especially with two different goals, but why introduce one that basically causes a conflict in the middle but never talks about it? I do have to say, I really like the performances that are given. I thought everyone on the team did an absolute good job knowing that they actually sound and act like teenagers because they actually got teenagers to play them. I think this is the first media where I actually believe they're teenagers because others usually play them seriously or they're not really focused on the teenage aspects. I think Michelangelo acted like it before, but this movie explores the whole group. I think Ice Cube gives a good performance as Superfly. I think Ice Cube is always fun when he plays anger while being restricted to a PG rating. Jackie Chan as Splinter was also a good choice. He does give a funny performance when the delivery is right. I think the others did their performance as well, but they didn't really do much in the movie. Like Paul Rudd was good, just wasn't in the movie much. They got good actors, just didn't do much with it. Like how the fuck do you get Giancarlo Esposito to be in the movie for only 5 minutes in the intro? I think an issue that might break some people, and I could see why it would be, but this movie takes itself unserious most of the time, which sounds like a silly complaint. I think what I mean is that the scene is meant to be humorous, it works, but when it's meant to be taken serious and emotional, it sometimes has a problem with trying to make it connect. Like there are scenes that are not meant to be taken as a joke, but then follow up with like wacky humor. Again, to some it might be an issue, but I find it a bit off, but I still found the humor funny most of the times. Some of it is so cringy, but I think it works because teenagers are dumb and cringe.
Bacon, egg, and cheese.
Let me get that bacon, egg, and cheese. Let me get a bacon, egg, and cheese.
I think the elephant in the room is the animation, and my god is this movie beautiful looking with this style. It has that Spider-Verse inspiration where it takes a style and goes extreme with it. Like Spider-Verse has that feeling of a comic book, Puss in Boots has the feeling of a painting of an old fairy tale. While this movie looks and colored like a rough sketch. The amount of sketch lines and imperfect coloring makes the animation look really good, and when the color pops off, it really pops off. There's a scene in the middle where they're in a bowling alley and it's full of neon colors and all of it looks amazing. I do find the character design funny though. There's a character in this movie that looks like a troll face, and that took so much of my headspace thinking about it. Also look at these and tell me you don't want to squeeze one in a cuddly way, not a Jeffrey Dahmer way. I think it also works with the action. The action is pretty good in this movie. There's like a montage in the middle that shows how well it's shot and animated, and I thought the whole sequence is amazing. I think it's my favorite part of the movie. I'm so glad there's like new animated movies that are coming out to show what animated movies can do, and seeing with some recent examples, I'm happy to see where more of it is going. I think overall I like this movie. It was nice, fun, and colorful, and while there are some things that might be a hit or miss with fans of the TMNT, I thought they were a fine inclusion or an interesting take. I do still have the issues with the writing, forgetting like major characters for potential sequels, and also scenes not flowing particularly well, and also some humor might be very hit or miss. But I think it's still a must watch if you like these characters and also just like watching some nice animation. And I'm giving Mutant Mayhem a 7.5 out of 10.
The working ways